my focus, and I'm going to go to the store after this, and I thought we could just watch me first.
I'm rolling as well.
And I'm going to make chili, and then I'm going to surprise Jeremy and get all this stuff to carve pumpkins tonight, you know, and just do that, and it's a good Sunday night.
I'm doing that tomorrow, because we actually got the pumpkins last weekend.
Oh, did you?
Patch, but my time in Phoenix is so short, so we're doing it tomorrow when I get there.
Oh.
We're rolling.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I don't need a mic, right?
No.
Okay, Angie. I'll just have you say and spell your first and last name for me. You know the drill.
I do. My first name is Angie, A-N-G-I-E, and my last name is Olberding, O-L-B-E-R-D-I-N-G.
Okay, and you're a Marine wife.
I am.
How long have you been married?
Well, I have been married for 15 years now.
And when you met Jeremy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was he in the Marine Corps?
No, in fact, he wasn't. So I always say that I came with the sea bag. We were actually married for a couple of years, and then he decided to join the Marine Corps. And the next day, after he had enlisted and done all the paperwork and everything, was September the 11th, the infamous day that we all know. And so it really kind of changed our whole life. It changed the real trajectory of what I thought what we were doing, and I thought the mission that we were going for, and it made a huge impact on our whole life.
Wow. How did you feel when he decided he wanted to join?
Alarmed, scared, worried. I just didn't know what this life brought with it. I had no idea. I think that was the biggest thing. There were so many questions. I didn't know what it meant to be a Marine Corps spouse. I just had no idea.
And how do you feel today?
Empowered, knowledgeable, informed, and satisfied. I live a very blessed life.
Okay. So there were times when your husband was deployed.
Correct.
Can you tell me about one of those times?
Sure. I think that like many Marine Corps spouses today, we've had that experience of a deployed service member in a combat zone. And so that experience brought with it some of those similar feelings from that moment that he said he wanted to join the Marine Corps, that fear of being scared, the not knowing. And yet, by the end of the deployment, it goes back to the way I feel today, empowered. What I mean by that is this, that I learned that over that period of time that he was deployed, that I could do practically anything that I set my mind to. That I had the ability to still accomplish goals, raise children, have a job, volunteer. I was still able to live my life and yet support him in the way that he needed to be supported.
Yeah. Well, what was the most difficult time that you found, like when you were apart and you maybe weren't in contact with him?
Probably the most difficult part was just the amount of patience it requires. Mm-hmm. It requires a lot of patience. You kind of instantly jump to maybe something bad has happened, especially if you're not getting some communication back from him. Mm-hmm. So there's that worry that comes into play. Mm-hmm. Of course, during the war, you were seeing lots of things on the news as well, mm-hmm. and the media, as informative as it can also be very alarming to a military family. Mm-hmm. And so you really have to learn the word patience and not jump to conclusions. And so that was probably some of the more difficult things throughout the entire journey of deployments, is just learning how to manage patience.
Yeah. Well, were there times that you kind of just decided not to watch TV because it helped?
Yeah, there were times where I definitely have done that myself. I've made the recommendation to other spouses that, you do have to just turn the TV off and mm-hmm. walk away from it and go connect with a friend and have that one-on-one connection with someone else. That will ease a lot of your fears when you're balancing your life against someone else's, So yeah, sometimes you really do actually have to turn the TV off and walk away.
And I know that you told me before you've had people compliment you on hey, Angie, you seem to have it all, and you have it all handled really well. I mean, how do you feel like when people compliment you on like that? Oh, I have to always be on. I can never share with them how actually this is hard for me.
You know, I use this phrase called the worried well, you know, meaning that I am usually in a pretty good place. But it is hard sometimes. You know, I've gone through a variety of things throughout deployments, and both personally and with my family. And I do feel that I've had to be a cheerleader and champion for other people's causes. And sometimes I do feel, in all honesty, I do feel that there have been times where I was the one still standing there, and people weren't necessarily checking on me when I was, you know, doing my best to support and check on other people. And it has been hard over time to be the person that kept the brave face for other people, because I have learned that my needs are often way less than a brand new spouse who's experiencing this journey for the very first time. You know, I feel that I need to do better supporting them. But yet on the other side, there were times where I felt like I needed people to do the same thing for me. And I've had great friends, and I've had great partnerships and that kind of thing. But it has been difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and I know, like, you're not really given a manual. You're not really told, like, this is how you need to prepare when your husband leaves and all of that.
Right. You're right. It is trial and error. It is trial and error. Every deployment is different. Every separation, if it's for school, you know, Marines separate and deploy. They do different things. Not everything is a combat deployment. It could be 4 to 5 months at a training school. It could be 2 to 3 weeks. It's when that Marine steps away from the family. There is no training manual, and every situation is different. So this deployment, we had a baby, where last deployment we didn't have a baby. That makes a huge difference. This deployment, we purchased a home. The last deployment, we lived in an apartment, and we could call maintenance to take care of everything. It's the little things that, when they change from one deployment to the next, that make each one unique and different.
Yeah, and it's kind of like your role as a wife. You really had to take on a lot, where you had to make a lot of decisions when you didn't have contact with her.
Right.
How were you in contact? Email, letters? How was it when you first joined?
So over time, we have increased our ways of staying connected to Marines and sailors and service members. Initially, you know, it might have been a letter, it might have been a phone call, an email, so kind of wherever you are in your journey. And now, you know, think of how great it is that a dad can, like, Skype in and be present in a room when a mom has a baby now. That's amazing. So now, yes, we are using a lot more technology, but it used to be, I mean, on our first deployment, something as simple as a video teleconference, you know, a VTC is what it's known as, and your Marine is sitting in a little room, and there's a scheduled time for you to show up and for the Marine to show up, and you're going to have a 20-minute conversation. And so you just hope that your Marine can make it to that appointment, and you just hope that all the video connections work. And that's the other thing. Please let them work. Because think of a mom who brings little children there. You're going to see dad, or think of a dad that is telling little kids that mom is going to be on the TV in a minute. And then for whatever reason, you know, they're just not able to make it, you know, the mission being the most important thing, or the connection not being able to be made. You know, how disappointed are our little kids, you know? That's so sad to me.
Yeah, I agree. So were there times when your children were young and your husband was gone? Yes,
we had, you know, kids going through a deployment and trying to stay connected, meaning he needed to stay relevant in their life. They needed to stay relevant in his life. And the great thing about the kids is just that they are so resilient. They, you know, especially thinking of those 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, this is like a superhero coming back into their life. You know, they're so incredibly excited. And so, yeah, that being disconnected from the kids, but then coming back and as a mom trying to make sure that we had done all the things that we could to get Dad caught up on life.
Yeah.
You know, bring Dad back into the picture. You know, and that's the role that you play as a military spouse. You have to keep everyone connected.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in the role that you have now at your job at the military?
Well, volunteer work. I am a huge fan of volunteer work. I've been working since day one, supporting military families and doing that through volunteerism.